Now it's time for another new project. This is called the Rolled Paper Paradise. It should be pretty neat. It's going to involve rolling a bunch of magazine pages and then gluing them on. Let's give it a shot. The first step is thinking about colors that you're going to want to use and making rolled magazine reeds out of them. Reeds are just the rolled up magazines that are glued together neatly. So here, I'm folding it a couple times and using a glue stick on that top edge. And by folding it, it makes it so I don't have to roll the entire sheet of paper. I can just fold about a third of it like this. Start off by folding it a couple times really nice and tight. Now I can just roll it over and over again, and I've got the glue on there and it should hold it all together. Nice. Should be nicely wrapped tight like that. Now for our paradise, or our landscape. I'm going to start drawing mine in from front to back. So here's some rocks that are going in front. Here's where the water line is going to be. And here's where some trees are going to be a little bit further back. Eventually I'll get to where those mountains are in the background. So we're trying to show depth in this picture going front to back. I've got rocks, then water, then trees, then mountains, then sky. And I'm going to label all those things so I remember what I want to do once I start gluing on my magazine pieces. Now we can think about gluing on some stuff. I'm going to start furthest back with the sky, and I'm using liquid glue for this part. With the liquid glue, put a bunch on there, and I'm going to use oranges and pinks for my sky. So I've cut up a bunch of those magazine reeds, and I'm just going to glue them into place. Some of them you're going to end up having to cut an angle on in order to fit like the edge of the mountains and stuff like that. But if you don't have any mountains, you don't need to worry about it. They don't all need to be the same shape or size. In fact, having different shapes and sizes gives us a little variety. Okay, now we're all done with part of the sky, so I'm going to move on to the mountains. Here, I'm actually cutting the pieces of the magazine reed really short, and I'm placing them sticking up vertically to give this a different effect. So you won't really see the colors here, but you are going to see a texture that I want to show for the mountains. Should be kind of neat. Now let's move on to some of the trees. I've cut a bunch of different greens at different angles, and I'm actually going to do this in different layers. I don't need to follow that original drawing exactly. I'm using a bunch of different greens. I know that trees have kind of pointy tops a lot of time, so I'm just putting some of these in there. I'm eventually going to do another layer of greens on top of these to try and show a little bit more depth and to make the trees kind of stick out and be three-dimensional. I think it'll work. I'm going to flip this over and look at it from the side so I can tell that I have different layers. I want this to have a bunch of different layers of depth. So the sky is going to be in the back, then the mountains, then the trees, then the water, then the rocks. Here what I'm doing is putting down just a bunch of miscellaneous magazines under where the water is going to go to make the water stick out a little bit more. So I just have some other ones with a bunch of text on them that I'm going to put down first. Then I'm going to overlap them with a bunch of blue pieces. I've cut my blue pieces in a bunch of different shapes kind of because I know the water isn't always really calm. So by just putting them on here in a different pattern in different directions with different points and colors showing, I think it'll give the illusion of moving water. Also, because I have those magazines underneath, it'll make it stick out further than the trees in the back. That's pretty much all I'm doing for this demo. Have fun with the project. Should be neat. See ya!